Hello, Amanda here from Suddenly Autistic. In this vlog, I really want to dive into and explore the feelings that come up when we start to notice that the world is still harsh. There's still no time for us. It's never seemingly our turn. This concept or these thoughts of when will it be my turn in life were triggered by me watching a vlog by another autistic content creator called Courtney Literally, and the video she made was called Masking Expectations as a Late Diagnosed Autistic Adult. The video that she'd made isn't particularly long. It maybe goes for 12, 13, 14 minutes, something like that. And it's towards the 11th minute that she mentions that she's had this feeling, and other people that have commented on her vlogs have also shared something like, well, when will it be our turn? I too have stories around that, and that's what I want to share. If you've not had this feeling of, when's it going to be my turn? When do I get a chance? And usually it's a time to. What does that mean? What does that mean? That can mean different things for different people. What I'm meaning by what comes up for me when I find myself thinking, well, when will it be my turn? Is when I'm stressed and needing care and help. When I'm in distress. So it could be when it could be like the other day. So on Monday I felt pretty good. I wanted to go out and do a little bit of Christmas shopping. Not really shopping. I'd got most of the things I needed, but I wanted to just have a browse. Sometimes around this time of the year I do actually enjoy a bit of a Christmas browse. The windows are nice, there's things to do. It is hot here in Australia. We're not in a cold climate, so we don't get that icy Christmassy feeling. We get hot, and on Monday it was very hot, but I decided I'd go on the train because that's another thing I'd enjoy. So I went on the train to only the next town. It's a very short ride, and decided to do that. But before I went, I'd prepared myself that this could be an overwhelming experience, and I got myself an out, and my out was my husband. So I had an arrangement that I would ring him when I was ready and he'd come and get me, so I didn't have to necessarily, if I didn't want to, get the train back or stay for that amount of time or whatever. So anyway, I had myself a plan. I got down on the train, no problem. And then I got off the train and problems started. So the chap that was in front of me, I found myself stuck behind somebody who was not only walking very slow, but they were also on their phone, and they was weaving as if they were drunk. This person was just not paying attention. They were all into their phone. They were taking up the whole space. It was very difficult for me to get around. So that was one little micro stress on me that I found really hard to get past. Then I start walking, and it's a hot day. I notice the heat because the high street that I was walking up is extremely steep in both directions. So you go up, then you go down a steep bit, and then you have to come up the other side and then down again. So lots of steep walking. I don't mind that usually. I like the exercise. I like the feeling in my muscles. I like to actually feel my muscles working. But when it's hot and you're tired, I was already tired because it'd been hot for a lot of days. By this time, this was like our fifth or sixth hot day in a row. The pressing on my muscles felt okay, it felt good, but I knew that I was going to get physically tired a lot quicker than if it wasn't such a hot day. I'm not going to run through blow by blow all of the things I did, but the next thing I did cause me to feel a little bit out of spoons. And I went into a store that I went in and got my glasses sorted. Not these, I've got sunglasses that I actually sat on. So earlier, like in the middle of last week, I had a lot of work things going on, and one of the things that happens to me when I'm really stressed and at the end of really anxious about things is I will make mistakes and I will have accidents. And one of the accidents that I seem to love having is breaking my own stuff. So I sat on my sunglasses and bent the arm. Luckily not terminally, so I took them back into the store. They've corrected them for me, and to be honest, they're good enough. They weren't particularly expensive, but it's kind of not the point. It's another micro stress. So I was dealing with a micro stress that happened because I was stressed before. Got that resolved, was feeling pretty good about myself because you don't have to pay for that. They'll do it for free. And then I walked into another shop, started to see some things that I could get as little stocking fillers for family members, and noticed there was a child in the shop, and that child had started to scream and get really agitated, and the parent wasn't leaving. I have had children. I still have offspring. They're older now and they don't scream in shops. Maybe it's me that screams in shops. But I was talking to my husband about this and saying, look, I don't know what's happened. I just find it intolerable now. I don't find myself moving into a judgment space around the parent. I don't find myself hating on the child. I understand what's going on. I also can't manage it. I find it overwhelming. I always did find that situation overwhelming, and yes, I was a parent that was in that position quite a bit. We did have dysregulated children at times, and I was also a dysregulated parent, an undiagnosed dysregulated parent, so I know exactly what it feels like. When I was talking to my husband about it and trying to rack my brains as to what exactly is coming up, what feelings are coming up, and what sort of reality I was living in, I came to the conclusion that when my children were younger and screaming, I would find it quite easy to sort of step into the space of, oh, this is going to make other people feel bad, I will get out. So I would put other people first, which is not right, by the way. I don't think that's the right answer in parenting. But I would do everything I could to remove myself and that screaming child out of that place. Genuinely, I'd want them to feel comfortable, but that would, if I'm honest, come secondary to the peace of everybody else. So I would get, and not because I was embarrassed, but because I was scared. I was very scared of the reaction of other people. So I would leave and then I would deal with whatever is going on, usually from a place where I'm already exhausted and over my spoons, out of spoons and capacity myself. In this situation, sorry, I should go back a bit. When I had my young children, if they weren't playing up in that way, and I say playing up because that's the way we conceptualized it, but it isn't, it's just expressing that they're out of spoons too and they're tired and they're needing something or they're frustrated. So when I had a child that wasn't in that state and they were behaving well, so to speak, they were just being quiet and happy and whatever, they were having emotions that were easier to deal with, then if some other person's child blew up, I'd have a part of me that would go, thank God it's not mine. And that is the honest truth. So I could tolerate it more then because I was grateful that it wasn't my child, and it normalized the fact that children do this in my brain. So I could sort of go, oh yeah, other people's children do this sometimes. It's okay, you've got this. I would possibly give that parent a knowing look and I would carry on my day. I wouldn't be aware of the fact that my spoons are running out and this is affecting me because I'm in that environment and I'm prioritizing all these other things. That might seem like a big aside, but I think that's really important to come in when is this my turn. The person actually did leave the shop after a while, but not straight away. So by the time the person with the child did leave the shop, I was already feeling quite agitated, but I really did want to get the things that I'd got. So I stuck to my guns and I pushed through my pain a little bit and then bought the stuff and then went outside, and that kid was outside with its parents, walking up and down the path. So I had to walk past them again and get a second dose of ear scream, which I didn't like at all. And again, I wasn't judgmental of, I realized it was me, but at that point I clocked that I think I'm just not coping with today. Long story short, I did a couple of other things, got a bit frustrated and overwhelmed by the number of questions and the announcements in one of the shops I went in. There was a sale on, so it's like, over on this rack there's this, and don't forget we're closing down. Then the sales assistant was really chatty, very nice, but chatty in a way that I didn't have time for, or not time, I had lots of time. I just knew that when I say I didn't have time, I knew that my limited capacity would be using up what little capacity I've got left, and I'm still in the middle of shopping and I've still got to get home, even if it's with my husband. So I made my way to the meet point for my husband and I rang my husband. A couple of other things happened as well, Someone was coughing loudly and I was getting worried that they might be spreading germs in one shop, so I came out of that, rang my husband. He was only going to be 10 minutes, so that was sweet. I'd watched the video by Courtney literally before that, and I already had it primed in my head, this when will it be my turn. And then I came home from shopping because we had to do our food shopping, and that also was a nightmare because people were walking slowly again. There was lots of people in the aisles. It was very busy. There's lots of restocking going on. It was crazy. Things are in the different place to what they normally are, which automatically makes me want to pull my eyelashes out or something. You know, it's really hard work that when things move in a supermarket. Lots of things going on. So by the time I get home, I was very tired and I actually wanted to go to sleep. But I was thinking on this thing, when will it be our turn? When will it be my turn? In Courtney Literally's dialogue, just before the 11 minutes, it kicks in like this. She says, "It feels like our time has passed. It's not our turn anymore. We've missed our turn. And now we've got our turn, but it's not really our turn anymore. And it's such a bad feeling." She was saying this in the context of just wanting to get through the day without breaking down. I hear you. I see you. I don't have any answers for you, is the response that I was going to say to that. What I do want to do, and I've now taken up 11 minutes or, nearly all of that time pretty much, but what I do want to do is give a little insight into what I found is working for me. I do find it hard to accept that everyday things that I think are going to be nice or neutral can ruin my day, zap my energy, and either send me into a bit of a shame spiral if I'm feeling ashamed of myself, like I should or could do that in the past, or I should be able to do that, or whatever. It's really hard to notice just how little I can do compared to the norm, or a normal person, if you want to shame yourself in that way. These are turns of phrase. These aren't judgments on society. I know that everybody has silent battles that we can't see. I know all of that, and it's still hard, because at the end of the day, we're all individuals who need care and attention. When my husband pulled up and I met with him, it felt a little bit of a relief at that point, but the relief didn't fully kick in until we got back home and I realised what I'd done, what I'd achieved, and that what I'd achieved in partnership with another person. This is where the disability creates an opportunity for connection and strengthening and really creating opportunities out of that vulnerability. So what I did differently this time in my life, having known that I'm autistic and ADHD and that I have my anxiety disorder and that I have this complex PTSD which sends triggers at me in all directions, now I know that about myself, I can plan. And I have my autistic scripts of where I'm going to go, and I'll run through in my brain, in my mind's eye, where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, and there'll be some element of surprise in it, but generally speaking, I'll have a plan. I can verbalize that plan to my person. So in this case, it was my husband. Now, had my husband not been available, I might not have been able to go, or I might have gone, you know what, sorry, I can do this, and get on the train and go, and then feel really overwhelmed, and then basically have a much harder time getting back, knowing I could still get back on the train, or I could get a taxi, or I could walk if I really, really wanted to, although that would be a nightmare. But yeah. So having a plan A, a plan B, maybe even a plan C, that helps my anxiety. Rehearsing it ahead of time, I didn't know I did this in the past, but having known now that I'm autistic and knowing how important that is, I listen to that more and I give myself more time to plan. It's hard because with my ADHD nature, I can be very impulsive and I can say yes to things, or I can do things on a whim and then find that I'm stuck in the middle of something without any spoons. That is quite normal for me, and that's where things get broken. That's where things tend to get broken. Although things can get broken when I plan as well. Let's not forget that. But this whole thing of when is it my turn, it's my turn now. There's an element of, I hate the phrase learnt helplessness, and when my psychiatrist told me that I was displaying some behaviour that was called learnt helplessness, I didn't feel like punching him in the face there and then. I felt like, no, that's not what it is. I felt very angry but not aggressive. But I felt righteous indignation, I think it was, in that moment. Like, no, you don't know me at all. That's not what it is. On reflection, there is a level, or there has been a level of learnt helplessness in my responses to things because of the past that I've had, the chronic invalidation, and my lumpy skill set, that some days I can do things, some days I can't. So it's hard to plan. Well, what day is it today? I don't want to make all these provisions and, support in place, and then I really don't need them. And actually I end up supporting those people, because that can happen too. It's a dance, and it's a constant dance, and it's one that I've needed to really pay attention to myself and my feelings to conquer to the level I have. And first of all, it feels like our time has passed. For me, as a late diagnosed person, I have mourned, and I'm still mourning, because there's lots of situations in life that keep coming up that are possibly the first time since diagnosis, post-diagnosis, that I've experienced that again. There's a lot of grief involved, and the grief is linked to times in the past where it feels like our time has passed. And our time for what? Our time for being cared for, our time for having a carer that we didn't have to plan ahead of, that we didn't have to take responsibility for, that we were just in tune with another person seamlessly. For example, our mothers, our fathers, our carers, whatever. I feel like I didn't have that for whatever reason. No disrespect to my parents at the time, who didn't know I was autistic, ADHD, that I was being traumatized by things. And as such, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of self-blame. The shame comes from self-blame, like it must be me, I must be difficult, I must be awkward, I must be hard to love, all of these things. So it feels like our time has passed. Children have a right to expect that their parents will help them out when they're in a bind, when they fall over, when they whatever. It's right to expect that. Now, it's not always realistic to expect that our parents can mind read us as children and make everything go away, and it's not always possible to do that as a parent. But it's a parent's job to create a nurturing environment that and be somewhat in tune and preempt a little bit, and definitely to then listen and to help nurture and grow our children. I have a lot of shame around that, because I feel like I didn't do that properly for my children, because I wasn't in touch, and so often I would be triggered as well and be adding to the problem. So I'd be adding to the dysregulation of the family as opposed to helping simmer it down. And that brings up a lot of shame. And it also brings up a lot of hurt and grief for little me who didn't get it. So part of my journey, part of my sort of learning about myself has been reparenting myself. Not from a lens of my parents did everything wrong, I'm going to show them. That's not the headspace. It's nobody will know you as well as you know yourself, especially if you have put in the time and effort to get to know yourself and learn yourself. And even the most attentive, the most with the program parents can't speak for a child after a certain point, because we're complicated with our complex emotions and our intellect. We might be more intelligent than our parents, we might be have a higher emotional requirement than our parents, we might have more struggles than our parents that they can't empathize with and understand, or not understand the world as well as in clear cut as they do. We might just be living in, I shouldn't even say just, we will be living in different times with different technology, different pressures, different news, different friends. We are all individuals. So it feels like our time has passed, our childhood has passed, and that's where that learned helplessness comes in. So if I came home from shopping, however I got home, and I just was like having a wail because it didn't go right, and when's it going to be my turn, and why am I feeling like this? That's the child me coming out, and there's no shame with that, no problem. I've done that. I've been there and done that, and I've looked inside myself and gone, okay, I don't like that I am not able to keep myself safe. I feel vulnerable, and I'm the adult. I'm not the child anymore. I am the adult. What can the adult me do? How can the adult me bring this emotional chaos down? How can I soothe myself? How can I plan for next time? What can I learn? And that's how it goes. So it feels like our time has passed. I think that's relating back to our childhood and the childhood wounds that we all will have if we're late diagnosed with anything, because there'd have been a lot of time when we were struggling in plain sight, like we're struggling out there, and people turned away, blamed us, shamed us, avoided us, helped us, but it wasn't helpful, whatever they did. The second bit, it's not our turn anymore, is a bit of an acknowledgement that we have grown up now and these problems didn't go away. So again, that can be personal shame. We maybe had parents that did a lot for us and did their best, or we had a caring arrangement around us that we felt like we didn't have these problems, and now we're adults, we've got all these problems, but I still need help. And I don't know, it might be that we're struggling to lean into our own vulnerability there. We don't want to come across as vulnerable or needy. We don't want to have needs. Maybe emotions were shamed in our family. Maybe we just don't understand them in ourselves. So it's not our turn anymore is telling us something that we need to work on as well. That we did have a turn and now it's not your turn. There's a bit of a newsflash there. We carry our inner child. We carry that sort of everything's overwhelming, we can't cope with this. We carry that forever, as we carry everything else forever. But also, hopefully, what we do is we add to those tools. So whenever that rears its head and that we're feeling it's overwhelming, we can't do it, that helplessness, we're helpless and the world is hopeless and everything's too hard, that's a nod from our inner child, and we can nurture that. As adults, we can nurture that. And we don't always have the tools and the capacity to do it on our own. Sometimes, and indeed that's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to work with other people and sort this stuff out. We're supposed to be in relationships and communities. Sometimes it's not other people. Sometimes it's our pet, it's our dog, it's our goat, whatever we have, an emotional support rabbit. We've missed our turn. Again, that's taking hyper responsibility. That says something about the fact that we should have known. We should have known. There was turns going by on that sushi train and we missed it. You've missed out. You sat there, you watched it go by, you were dilly-dallying, daydreaming like you always do, whatever, and you missed your turn. So now you've just got to suck it up that it's not your turn, or you've got to wait for it to come around again. Who knows when that will be? We do not know. All of this sort of narrative can go on. You have not missed your turn. You may have missed an opportunity to try out something a little bit more helpful, or you didn't recognize the opportunity at that point. But there's no such thing as missing your turn in terms of learning about your emotions and whatever. I think some of that also comes to this hyper that we felt like we were the problem and that we had to solve everything, and oh no, look, you've got to take responsibility for the fact that your turn has gone. That's absolute rubbish. We don't know what we don't know. So sometimes we can go through, there's that saying that if you repeat the same problem, there's a train going past, so it'll be quite noisy. There's that saying that if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that you must be, a sandwich short of a picnic or something. That is something that goes through my head a lot, clearly, because I can't, it doesn't seem like it because I can't remember the saying, but that kind of sentiment that you keep making the same mistake again, you must be a defective human. It's reinforcing that thing that I am the blame, I hold the shame. That's not the way it is with life, because we have emotions, we have context, we have situations, everything's so complex. So actually, how many times do we go through the same exact situation, the exact same, sorry, I like to say it that way, the exact same scenario again and again? We don't. Like I was saying, when I went shopping, there was the weather on that day, there was the weather that was leading up to that, there was the amount of sleep I'd had, there was the capacity for help that I had, did I have someone at home who could come out or not? Every situation is slightly different, so it's the first time we've done it. So what about, let's let go of that shame that we should have known. No, we shouldn't. Yeah, there's patterns there that we could have predicted, but we shouldn't have known. Everything we're doing, it's the only time, it's the first time we've been here today. It's the first time that we've been wearing these clothes on this day with this weather and this tank full and these to-do lists and this context and this thing that we saw yesterday in the news, and every day is the first day. And now we've got our turn, but it's not really our turn anymore. So we got our turn by getting our diagnosis. So that helped us feel like, oh my God, look, now we can advocate for ourselves. I've got this, I've got that. I think this speaks to that whole realizing that we're adults, realizing that within this adult body, and the shame and the judgment that comes, the self-judgment that comes when we realize that, look at us acting like kids, this learned helplessness. There's this adult body thing going through the world, having a meltdown because we cried in Coles or Woolies or whatever supermarket because we couldn't get, the brand of cheese that we wanted. And what kind of adult does that? You do. It's not ideal. Probably something you want to work on. But you shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's information. It's information. And we're adults. We can work with information. Maybe not on our own. Why should we work on our own? We can work collaboratively, which is what we're doing through these videos. So now we've got our turn, but it's not really our turn anymore, is when we look in the mirror and see ourselves as adults and have all this, well, adults should, this narrative of what an adult should be. I think we need to drop that narrative, or what a functional adult should be, or what a normal adult should be. Drop all of that. We're individual. We're us. I'm me. What's right for me? What's right for me today? What's right for me in the morning? What's right for me in the afternoon? What's right for me in the evening? I'm not a good, I can burn the candle both ends, but I'm way better at getting up early in the morning than I am staying up late at night, whereas my husband's the opposite. These are just, it doesn't mean it's better or worse, or I'm better or worse, it's just different. Yes, all of these are such a bad feeling. It is a horrible feeling because it brings up lots and lots of emotions, and emotions keep hitting us like waves again and again. We feel this, we feel that, and then we're exhausted. And being exhausted over something that we perceive to be so little, so trivial, so should have, could have, would have not had that happen, that really upsets us. That really upsets the apple cart. So when Courtney at the end of that says she just wanted to be able to get through a day without breaking down, I'm not trying to say to her or anyone in particular, this is what you do to get through that, because everyone is so different. What I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of grief that comes with the diagnosis, with a late diagnosis, of realizing that actually the thing that's caused you all the problem in the past isn't something that you're going to learn to get over. You're going to adapt to, and you're going to be able to have strategies to help minimize some of the downsides. But essentially, this is you. You are autistic, and being autistic or neurodiverse in a neurotypical dominant world is going to cause some friction. And in that friction, there might be pain, and there might be embarrassment, shame, all the other things. There might be things that you wish you could have or do, and you actually can't do or have without significant downsides to your mental, physical health and well-being, or your financial health and well-being. Having grace, giving ourselves space, and creating plans, so working with other people and exploring and getting to know ourselves, our new selves, our real selves, the self that was there all along. What we're trying to do is advocate for ourselves. I'm trying to always keep in mind and be the adult that I need me to be. So stay within, keep my adult self in sight. It's really, really hard to keep hold of that when we're already melting down. So the goal for me is not to never melt down. It's to try and preempt those meltdowns as best as I can without getting too hung up on it. Have a plan, and to talk to people around me and say, hey, look, if you notice this and this, it might mean that this is going to happen. Explain ahead of time what my needs are, if I can, so self-advocacy. And then letting go of all the shame that comes along with that I wish I didn't have to do this. It doesn't matter. You're not the only person. Yes, autism does cause a certain amount of stresses on a normal person's system, and there might be things that we struggle with a great deal that other people take in their stride. But that doesn't matter. It's a radical journey towards ourselves, and we are an island of one. Each one of us, we're all unique. You've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. But how many times do we not sort of think like that when we're in distress? We're like, oh, why did I do? Because it's you. This is your unique problem. This is your unique circumstance. What can you learn? So I guess that's how I'd sum this up. Is it our turn? It is our turn. When we're adults, when we're late diagnosed, it is our turn, and our turn comes with consequences. I didn't really talk about that too much, but there are consequences of taking our turn. Maybe we can't go out to that thing. Maybe we have to come home early. Maybe we can't wear everything that we think we'd like to wear. Maybe we can't buy ourselves certain things because we know we'll break them and lose them. It'd be a waste of time, and then we'll hate ourselves for it. There might be things that we just can't do, but there's a lot we can do. As a late diagnosed autistic person who gets that gut-wrenching hurt that comes with this, it never feels like it's our turn. We missed our turn. It's not my turn anymore. It feels like my turn has passed. I've got my turn, but it's really not my turn. Know that this is your turn. And taking your turn as an adult in your adult self means taking responsibility for your needs, making your needs, covering your needs as best you can, getting help to cover what you can't do on your own, and there's nothing wrong with that. And accepting, which is a big one, accepting the consequences of that. It's really hard to accept consequences that mean that we are denied access, or we are going to have to make time to recover from things that other people don't. We can advocate for a better world, a more inclusive world, and an easier time of it, and still acknowledge that there are going to be possibly times and places and situations for us as individuals that they're just not going to feel. We're not going to be feeling it. We know it's too much. Expecting the world to just feel good or better, and I'm not saying that any of these people or this I'm not saying that's where that was going, but the highs and lows, the emotional roller coaster of life, the burnout, the recovery, the stress, the triggers, those will still be there. Those will still be possible. I think no matter how resolved we get, we're still walking in a world which we can't largely control. But once this whole sort of learnt helplessness gets out the window a bit, once we've nurtured our inner child a bit, I believe, and this is what keeps me going because I don't believe I'm there yet, I believe we can still have those flashes of negativity and disability and drama and chaos, and we've balanced it a bit more with some of the glimmers. We're getting more glimmers, we're getting more hope, we're having more successes, we are recovering quicker from the downsides, and we're generally creating ourselves, we're weaving ourselves a life that's a bit more within our own comfort zone without settling. Because I'm not a settler. I want to keep challenging myself and doing things, but I don't want to burn out because I went Christmas shopping. I don't want to have 5 days on the sofa or in bed because some kid was screaming in a supermarket. I wanted to make this video at this time of the year. Well, it's good to make it at this time of the year. I didn't know. I just got, it literally is. It's a good time of the year to make this video, I should have said, because it's a very overwhelming time. And it does feel like it's not our turn because, we've got to put these people's needs first, or this first, or it's this time of the year, so we've got to do this. No, we don't. We are adults. This is our life. This is our life. There's been many times I can remember where I've gone, enough's enough. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to your house every Christmas because actually I don't like to go there. I'll go the next day or something else, or we'll meet at a different thing. I still want to see you. I still value you, but I don't want to be part of that big day because that big day is too much for me. I can make those decisions because it's my life too. I'm not just there to make everybody else's time more comfortable or better or to do jobs for other people. Stepping into that power, I think, is not just something that autistic people have to learn when we're diagnosed late in life. I think it's something that all adults have to learn. It's an adult lesson. It's adulting 101. And I think a lot of us learn it and then unlearn it when we notice that other people are upset or distressed, or we're making other people do things. That is not the way to look at it. We focus on ourselves. We keep our values in mind. We try not to be ourselves and take advantage, not manipulating other people, but we're standing within our boundaries, within our space. We're taking up the space that we can, and we're being polite and kind and thoughtful and considerate to ourselves as well as others. And I think that's the bit that's hard, and that's the bit that I found hard. I didn't know who I was, not just because of a lack of diagnosis, but because of other things. And once I found out who I was, I didn't always like it. And then as I started to like it, tolerate it, and then sort of go, oh yeah, you know, I can see that. That's where I'm at now. Expecting all of the pain to go away and for me to never do anything bad or always have it under control is just not realistic. That's not human. I have emotions. We have all the emotions. They're all valid. So being an adult, it's about making time and space and plans for that, and then learning how I can perhaps have a better go at that scenario next time. Happy season's greetings. I've got my little Christmas tree. That is the size of my Christmas tree. It's tiny because I live in a very tiny house. That has got little Lego people on. I might do a close-up of that because I think it's quite cute. I've only put it there today. It was on the table, but I'm trying it out in a different place because I kind of wanted to get a bit of the vibe through the window and also give that living tree, because that's alive, a little bit of light so it can photosynthesize. Yes, happy days. Anyway, see you soon. Thanks. Oh, and subscribe if you want to, please, because it makes the algorithm sing.